монголчууд бид амны бэлгээс ашдын бэлэг гэж ярьдаг. Муу юмыг маш зөөнөж ярих юм бол мэдэх магадлал их байдаг. Бидний амьдралыг тэтгэгч юнит ярьдаг юм аа. За энэ улсыг хадгалж хамгаалж байгаа, нөөцөж байгаа энэ орчин, энэ уул юм аа. Гэвч энэ ууланд маш олон зүйл өөрчлөгдөж байна.
The Asian nation of Mongolia is home to about 3 million people, half of whom are nomadic herders living directly off their livestock and their land. Since 1960, their country's average temperature has increased by 4.1 degrees. Compare that to the temperature of the Earth, which has gone up just about 1.5 degrees.
So Mongolia is a landlocked country, 18th biggest country actually in the world, squeezed between China and Russia, and GDP per capita is around $4,300. Mongolia, you have to understand, is a nomadic herding society. That's what they've done for hundreds of years. People rely on their herds and on agriculture to sustain themselves. And the animals provide everything to them, from milk to meat to household income to clothing to everything.
Our nomadic herders have been for generations, for hundreds if not thousands of years, moving from one place to another.
You know that from the history it goes all the way to Genghis Khan and even to his predecessors. If you think about the harsh conditions that they have to survive in, I mean, it takes a lot of creativity, to be able to go through the winter, the cold and the harsh conditions, oftentimes alone.
We Mongolians are nomadic people. Nomadic means we move one place to another place because of weather and our animals and horses and our lifestyle. Whatever bad things happen, need to move quickly. За монголчууд бид уламжлалт мал аж ахуйгаа эрхэлж одоо энэ 21-р зуун хүртэл явж ирснээрээ байгальд хамгийн халгүй одоо байдлаар амьдарч ирсэн ийм уламжлалтай ард түмэн гэж би үздэг. Үнэхээр одоо уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт дасан зохицох шаардлагатай болох үед нь бол хамгийн оновчтой байдлаар одоо зохицохоос өөр домгүй л гэж одоо бодож байна л да.
Because herders are so fiercely attached and dependent on their landscape, they will undoubtedly be greatly impacted by these changes in climate, whether it's water access or pasture health. And with this increasing number of livestock, Mongolia is probably very close, if not already, past its carrying capacity of livestock.
This overextensive use of the land leads to overgrazing, leads to carrying capacities of pasture grounds being overused, and climate change does the rest.
When people describe climate change, today what they're really describing is the overall increase in temperature throughout our world. The sun is emitting energy to our Earth's surface. That energy is then absorbed, but then some of it is also emitted. The natural progression for this emission of energy would be to exit the atmosphere. But with the anthropogenic influx of these radiatively active gases, CO2, N2O, methane, O3, these absorb outgoing radiation. And so once it's trapped, it's very difficult for it to leave. And as a consequence, we see the overall increase in temperature and has a cascading effect on a number of Earth processes.
Mongolia is one of the countries worst affected by climate change and has seen its temperatures increasing over the last 70-year time period by over 2 degrees centigrade. So that means they're already over the critical thresholds that we are trying to avoid globally.
So glaciers typically develop at high elevations or high latitudes, and largely it depends on temperature. So you need a temperature that can maintain a snowpack for many, many years. And then eventually, over hundreds of years, that snowpack will begin to develop a glacier. The glaciers of the Altai Mountains are known as, the regional water towers. And this is simply because they are these reservoirs of ice sitting in the high mountains. And so as the summer progresses, as the temperatures increase, the glacier begins to melt. And this water is very important in terms of herder livelihoods. It's feeding, it's supplying communities that live in much drier regions that have very limited access to water.
За ус бол бидний усыг бол бид эртээр яснаар цэнхэр алт гэж нэрлэж ирсэн. Яагаад гэвэл алтнаас хичнээн алт байвч усыг орлож чаддгүй учраас бид нэр одоо усыг бол маш үнэтэй эрдэнэ гэж бодож явдаг.
The water is a very important resource in our life. No water, animal, human, everything is dead.
Тэгэхээр голын усны нөөц одоо яаж нөлөөлж байгаа тэр мөнгө цэвдэгт одоо цэвдэг гэж би өөр утгаар ярьж байгаа. Галаксиэр одоо мөсөн гол тийм ээ. Мөсөн голын хайлт бол яг бүрэн нүдэн дээр явагдаж байгаа.
Since roughly 1990, we've seen the glaciers in Mongolia retreat in total surface area by about 40%.
The short-term effect is that at the source there is more water. Right? So people are basically saying there is no problem, right? We have water. It's melting, we have water, right? But what they're not seeing is the long-term effect of it.
We'll see increasing rates of desertification likely, the transition of grasslands to deserts.
25% of Mongolia's landmass is desert by now, and 70% is considered degraded land in some shape or form.
Тэгэхээр зарим биш нь тооцоогоор бол зарим тодорхой бүс нутагт жишээлбэл одоо говь хэрэг бүс байдаг юм завсрын бүсүүдэд агаарын температур одоо нэг ойрын 50-аас 70-80 жилийн дотор бол энэ бараг зарим бүснүүд хөтлөн 6-аас 7 градусаар одоогийн байгаа биш ингээд шүү дээ. Дулаарх тийм тооц гарсан байгаа тийм.
Once the last glacier is melt and the last drop of water from the glacier is gone, then the desert will start to creep in and get closer and closer.
Энэ бол одоо энэ бидний одоо хэрэгжилж байгаа ус маань одоо бүхэл амьтны одоо ганц одоо үндаануулж байдаг. Тэгээ усаа одоо хүмбэр хайрлаад зөв зөвхөс ашлах юм бол ус шиг одоо хийхтэй чухал зүйл одоо байхгүй шүү гэдгийг бас энэ хэлхэн зүйтэй болов юу бодож өгд юм аа. Сургуулийн хүүхдүүдэд эхлээд одоо энэ дунд насны хүүхдүүд хүртэл ингээд сургуульд нь тийм усны талаар бас зөв ёстой хэдэн цаг хичээл ороод
United Nations development programs worked with the local communities so that as we go forward, we are able to monitor and utilize and manage this scarce resource that is so important for the herder communities in Mongolia.
Ингээд манай энэ газар тариалны эрхлэлт усны асуудал маш хомс байдаг. Маш бага байдаг. Тийм учраас бид нэр бас өөрсдөө ус хэрэглэгчийн холбоо гэж байгуулад тэрнээрээ энэ дээд дунд төвшний газар тариалны эрхлэгчтэйгээ нийлж зөвшөөрж усыг бас зөв зөвштэй цаг хугацаатай ашиглахын тулд зөвшөөрж тийм ус хэрэглэгчийн холбоо байгуулсан. Дээр нь манай бүлэгт НҮБ хөгжлийн сан энэ дасан зохицох төслөөс хуурай худдаг, уснаас хуурай худдаг намраа усалтын систем хэрэгжүүлснээр бидний газар тариалах боломжийг нээж бид нар энэ урсгал усыг тэтгэж байгаа энэ цэцэг навч дэлгэрч хүний амьтан ундааж өв сургамал гарч хүний амьдрал усгүйгээр төсөөлөх аргагүй лээ. Ингээд усыг бид нар алтнаас илүүд үзэж усыг чандан эрдэн гэж бид нар дээдлэн хүндэтгдэг байгаа.
All life support system in Mongolia adjusted, accommodated to the existing climate condition, to the cold climate condition.
They have no coping mechanisms, nothing to fall back on, and that drives migration into the cities. Air pollution is extremely high in Ulaanbaatar because of the burning of coal. 80% of Ulaanbaatar's air pollution comes from coal burning through the individual stoves that people use in their gers, in the tents.
Tôi 2014 онд энэ Улаанбаатар хотод шилжин ирсэн байгаа.
Одоо манай гэр бүл амьдарч байгаа юу харьяа баян шүү. Тэр дондоо энэ сонгойрхан дүүрэг Улаанбаатар энэ орчинд бол маш хахарын бохирдол ихтэй. Энэ улмаас одоо 5 настай хүүгээ өглөөд цэцэрлэг төрөж өгөхдөө давхар масктай өрнө бол өглөөд нь ийм орчин өвлийн үеэрл дөрнө удаанаас эхэл болоод байна л да. Хахарын бохирдол илүү зөөлдөж байна. Заавч хүн миний амьдрал биш энэ Улаанбаатар хотод амьдарж байгаа хүн болгоны л асуудал болчихсон баг энэ хагарын бохирдол гэдэг зүйл. Энэ машинтай явж байхад бол ер нь 10-аас 15 минут цайд бол энэ бол юу ч харагдахгүй. Энэ бол утаа юунаас болж энэ болж ихээр түүхээ нүрс. Түүхээ нүрс бол шатаагүй байх үндэслэл байхгүй. энийг нүүрс төлөхгүй бай гэхэд орон суусанд орох арга зам байгаа. Хүн зохиолд бол ер нь бол авах боломжгүй хэмжээнд хүрдэг. Залуу гэрэлд бол маш
You literally feel the sulfur in the air. You smell it. It's in your clothes. It's in your hair. It's everywhere. Visibility is low, and it has led to increase in respiratory diseases by 40% over the last decade. 1 in 10 deaths in Ulaanbaatar can be attributed to air pollution, and these premature deaths are actually costing Ulaanbaatar about 20% of its GDP. So costs are absolutely enormous.
Karma is the most important teachings of the Buddhism. In the future, any time we will see the result of doing bad thing, we are hurting or destroying our nature, we see the result. It's coming to us. It's the karma. Greed poisoned our mind. So there is good thing happens, bring good thing, bad thing brings bad result.
These are the conditions that Mongolia is trying to battle with. How do we use our natural resources, specifically water, in a responsible, sustainable fashion? But unfortunately, mining is really the powerhouse industry of the country. It's been termed Mongolia because it's so dominant. How do you regulate this development of mining when it's so influential, yet so damaging to water at the same time?
In winter it gets to minus 40 degrees Celsius, so of course we all need electricity, but in Mongolia, especially in winter, we need a lot of heating as well. So until now, the cheapest and the simplest way to get the energy is from coal.
We need to find different ways of growing the industries and growing the economies. It cannot be on the backs of the fossil fuels, as it was in the past. There is an agreement now across the board that that option that we pollute now and clean later in the 21st century is not an option anymore.
Where there is demand, there will be a supply, right? So as long as we as an international community don't address the issue of coal by applying maybe a global tax on carbon, we won't get out of that cycle. And we will only decrease the demand if we make it more expensive.
Considering that coal is a finite product and that it is also a contributor to greenhouse gas emissions, it really only makes sense that this source of power, this source of energy, should be substituted with more green and cleaner energy solutions.
It turns out that Mongolia is probably one of the richest in wind and solar energy. We feel that in the future, if we're clever and do things right, then we can even be an exporter of renewable energy.
That said, there needs to be some type of a trajectory into alternative sources of energy.
But of course, I understand that it's very initial investment is very high, and therefore people are hesitating. Therefore, we need not only just finance support money, but even some knowledge, know-how. People from outside who have some experience, who have some capacity, knowledge, and to assist us.
Unless we embed those green solutions, green technologies now, we're locking in all the environmental footprints for the generations to come.
This is something that needs urgent addressing. Investing into this now will basically guarantee the future of their children and grandchildren and preserve their nomadic herding culture.
Чингис хаан маань одоо 1910 оны үеийг мэдээд одоо өнөөдөр одоо 2015 онд Алтай таван богдын мөсөн гол дээр очих юм бол энэ мөсний тал нь хайчваа түүнээс илүү хаашаа алгуулчихвал гэх багтаа гэж л төсөөлж байна.
What separated the Ice Age from the modern era was only about 4 to 5 degrees Celsius. Only slight fluctuations in temperature can have very dramatic impact on our global system.
How local community will survive? They will not have any more water for irrigation, for domestic consumption, and for livestock and so on. Therefore, it is very dangerous.
It changes the equation for Mongolia completely because the water and the land, basically the intact ecosystems, will not be there to sustain traditional nomadic livelihoods.
My father comes from a nomadic herders family in Eastern Mongolia. He's the youngest of the 13 children. We're very proud with this tradition, and of course it will be very sad if the tradition that persisted hundreds and hundreds of years will disappear just in a few decades because of something which Mongolians didn't do.
And I'm from a herding family. I'm not city boy, actually, and therefore, all about climate change is very important for me, not only as a professional, as an official, and so on, but as a just human being.
We cannot continue, not only in Mongolia, but worldwide, with the extraction and the burning of the fossil fuels the way we have gone so far.
I don't think we need to repeat the mistakes of the industrialized world where, consumption, and getting richer and richer is number one thing. And then we'll work out later how the environment and the ecosystem will react to that.
За энэ хүрээлэн буурчин гэдэг маань бол бидний энэ гიშж байгаа газар шороо энэ сургамал ан амтан тэгээд энэ цагаагаар энэ тэгээд энэ ус ургамал бүхэл юмнууд ингээд одоо хүрээлэн буурчинд орж байна. Явдал одоо иргэн бүрийн одоо маш чухал одоо үүрэг хариуцлага гэж би ойлгож явдаг.
Our shared prosperity can only be protected if everyone contributes. Mongolia is already over the 2 degrees threshold. We're already seeing the effects that it's doing on desertification, on melting glaciers, on water sources drying up, and people basically not being able to survive in rural areas. Climate change is basically aggravating what is already a very challenging situations for herders out there.
Монголчууд бид амны бэлгээс аштын бэлэг гэж ярьдаг муу юмыг маш зөгнөж ярих юм бол бүтэх магадлал их байдаг. Уур амьсгалын өөрчлөлт бол удаан хугацаагаар хайхрахгүй орхиж болохгүй асуудал юм байна. За хэрвээ бид ингээд хайхрахгүй яваад байх юм бол цаашид амьдралын маш олон үнэт зүйлийг алдаж болохоор байна.